You know what I mean? One thing informs the other. So are you sort of like approaching it with some degree of protectiveness for yourself?
I guess. In some ways. Mostly I just go in there sometimes and I don't really remember a lot of my sessions. Not ever sober when I record my music.
Why is that?
I don't know. I'm rarely sober. I don't know. Just because it kind of brings the raw emotion out of me and lets me, and I'll wake up the next day and literally I won't even remember what I did in the studio, but I know I did something good. And then I'll listen to it and I'll be like, yeah, this is really dope.
Bro, I had to practice all my verses because I don't even remember my song. I don't even remember recording them.
Straight up, when me and Perk, we just record songs and shit, but like, we perform.
Like, we be so fucked up that like, we forget what we said and shit. So it's like, yeah.
I wrote Gangsta Paradise out like I already knew it. It was a divine intervention.
It really is kind of crazy how that thing all came together.
I gotta say it like this. I didn't even write Gangsta Paradise. Gangsta Paradise wrote me, bruh. I was an instrument. And the song was the entity, and it was like this. And it wrote itself.
It's clear from a number of interviews with Dylan through the years that he himself doesn't understand some of his own lyrics, and that a spiritual entity he has credited has helped him along the way. In an interview conducted by Karen Hughes, she asked Dylan if he wrote like a medium. He told her that his compositions were not coming from him, but, quote, it's just coming through him, and that a melody just happens to appear, and the words come in and out. He went on to tell Hughes that sometimes, quote, I've written songs in 5 minutes complete. In the same 60 Minutes interview where Dylan admitted he felt bound to fulfill the youthful bargain he made with an invisible entity, Dylan explained that he can no longer write songs like his early ones, and that they were beyond his own writing ability and were given to him through a, quote, penetrating magic.
Those early songs were like almost magically written. Darkness at the break of noon, shadows even the silver spoon, handmade blade, a child's balloon.
Eclipses both the sun and moon. To understand you knew too soon. There is no sense in trying.
Try to sit down and write something like that. There's a magic to that, and it's not Siegfried and Roy kind of magic. You know, it's a different kind of a penetrating magic.
Jim Morrison biographers in the book Break On Through point out that he was, quote, opening himself to be used and abused by any spiritual entity that happened to come along. The result may have been some amazing inspirations, but also a tragically restless and misdirected life. Incredibly, the same spirits that brought Mr. Mojo Rising, as he liked to refer to himself, up to power, also brought him down to destruction. Voodoo priests who become possessed as they surrender their bodies to the demonic beings. Jim Morrison exhibited very similar behavior throughout his performances. In the seance, the shaman led, Morrison said, a sensuous panic deliberately evoked through drugs, chants, dancing hurls the shaman into trance. Changed voice, convulsive movement, he acts like a madman. Jim Morrison understood the process that took place as demonic beings took over his body. We have already seen that Page admitted, I've employed Crowley's system into my own day-to-day life, and that is the way big names are made these days. Crowley's system was to establish contact with demons, spirits. The biography Hammer of the Gods states that Jimmy spent his days in his suite with his shades drawn and candles lit. He spent his days and nights wide awake, holding his guitar, waiting for something to come through. In the Book of the Law, the satanic spirit that channeled through Aleister Crowley merely echoes the satanic strains from the Garden of Eden so many years ago. He states, quote, I am the snake that giveth knowledge and delight and bright glory, and stir the hearts of men with drunkenness, to worship me, take wine and strange drugs. Crowley interpreted this in his book Diary of a Drug Fiend to mean, quote, things like heroin and alcohol may be and should be used for the purpose of worshiping, that is, entering into communion with the snake that giveth knowledge and delight and bright glory. Aleister Crowley's twisted poetry glorified drugs as a door to the demonic. He wrote, quote, stab your demoniac smile to my brain, soak me in cognac, love, and cocaine. Heart on my heart, come out of the rain, let's have another go of cocaine. Always go on till you have to stop, let's have another sniff over the top. Aleister Crowley knew that if he was to establish a new age of Antichrist, he would have to destroy God's design for family, consisting of men and women as husband and wife. Crowley therefore declared in his book Magic Without Tears that family was public enemy number one. Crowley, who was out to destroy the family, said this, quote, "Think what horrid images it evokes from the mind. Not only Victorian, wherever the family has been strong, it has always been an engine of tyranny. Curse them. They are always in the way. To the performance of this work, speaking of the New Age, the nearest obstacle and the most obvious is the family. Since the Satanic Revolution of the 1960s, there has been an incredible attack on the family as homosexual recruiting has increased dramatically. Crowley made it no secret that he was interested in popularizing homosexual deviancy and even child molestation. Crowley declared, "Let me seduce the boys of England. I shall fight openly for that which no living Englishman dare defend, even in secret, sodomy. And in truth, there seems no better way to avoid a contamination of women. Sodomy is an aristocratic virtue which our middle class had better imitate if they wish to be smart." On a PBS interview, Timothy Leary let his hair down and admitted that he was carrying on Satanist Aleister Crowley's work and that the 1960s is when the plan began to come to fruition.
Well, I've been an admirer of Aleister Crowley. I think that I'm carrying on much of the work that he started over 100 years ago, and I think the 60s themselves. You know, Crowley said he was in favor of finding your own self and do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law under love. It was a very powerful statement. I'm sorry he isn't around now to appreciate the glories that he started.
And of course, as we have noted on the top left, we find a picture of none other than Aleister Crowley. It is believed that Crowley is the one that the Beatles are referring to when in the song Sgt. Pepper's they state it was 20 years ago today that Sgt. Pepper taught the band to play. It was 20 years before the release of this album, almost to the day when Crowley died, and many of his followers believe marked the beginning of the New Age.